Vanguard is famous for its low fees, but the admission in this statement is that there are still fees that need to be paid. We all know that fees are a critical factor when looking for an investment, as it can make a large difference when it compounds in value over time. The vast majority of Vanguard users will be fully aware of the ongoing costs, which are clearly priced next to their fund of choice when purchasing. But there are some hidden costs behind the scenes which you might not be aware of. So you need to ask yourself the question, do you know what your account fee is? Do you know what other one-off costs that you might be exposed to behind the scenes? Or do you know what happens to your account fee once you cross the £250,000 mark? Well, in this video, I'm going to be covering all this and more, so you can be fully comfortable knowing all the fees which you need to pay either directly or indirectly when using the Vanguard platform. So let's jump into it. Vanguard's fees are split into two. You have your fund management costs, and then you have your account fees. Both of these together will give you your total cost of investing with Vanguard. Let's start with the more complicated out of the two, which is your fund management costs. Your fund management costs are made up of three different factors: your ongoing costs, your fund transaction costs, and then any one-off costs associated with your fund. As mentioned, the ongoing costs are printed very clearly next to your fund when purchasing it. So these are the costs associated with your fund of choice, so it does vary on what you're buying. So on the low end, it could be as low as 0.06% for, say, the FTSE 100 Unit Index Trust, or it could be as high as 0.78% for the Global Emerging Markets Funds. So this can be costing you between £6 to £78 based on an investment of £10,000. But your average fund's ongoing charge will be somewhere around about 0.2 to 0.25%. It's important to note though that this will not be charged to you directly, as this will actually be included in the price you pay for the fund when purchasing it. The next part of your management costs is what is classed as transactional fees. Obviously, when Vanguard has to buy or sell the underlying asset, they are incurring certain dealing costs and taxes. But due to Vanguard's scale, these fees are generally very low, but they still do need to be costed somewhere. So similar to the ongoing costs, these fees aren't charged to you directly, but are built into the price of the fund that you're purchasing. To give you a steer on how big these costs are, they can range from anywhere to 0, but all the way up to about 0.79%. Before you freak out that this cost alone could be nearly as high as 0.8%, only 3 of the 75 funds on Vanguard have a fee above 0.3% for this sort of cost. The vast majority of transactional fees are actually between 0.03% and 0.04%. So as an example, the life strategy funds range from 0.02% to 0.06%. This then brings us to the final part of the fund management cost total, this being your one-off costs. In reality, these one-off costs are basically the spread of any trades that are made. The spread is simply the gap between the buy and sell price of a given fund. The spread isn't consistent, but Vanguard gives you a steer based on the last 30 days rolling average, so it can change over time. It's important to highlight though that there is no one-off costs or spreads for mutual funds. But for the funds that it does impact, the cost can range from anywhere between 0.03% to about 0.15%, with the average being about 0.06%. Again, this cost will not be noticeable as it is built into the price of your fund rather than as a bill every quarter. So to summarise, your fund management costs are made up of your ongoing costs, your fund transactional costs, and then any one-off costs. Taking all three of these factors into consideration, your fee could be as low as 0.09%, so for the Vanguard FTSE UK All Shares Unit Trust, or it could be as high as 1.39% for the Vanguard's Emerging Markets Bond Fund. To give you a steer on the average fund management cost for, say, the life strategy funds or the target retirement funds would be around about 0.28%. This means if you're investing £100 into a fund that had this sort of fee structure, you'd actually be getting about £99.72 worth of the asset, and then a further 28 pence will be going towards these costs when buying. The next part of the calculation is your account fee, and this will be settled in a bill each quarter. And this will either be offset by your cash balance in your account, or if you don't have enough cash in there, Vanguard will actually take the step of selling part of your fund to cover this fee each quarter. This fee is consistent across Vanguard's platform at a very reasonable 0.15%, but did you know that this will be the maximum you'll have to pay on the platform? Well, Vanguard actually want to incentivise their larger investors to keep their money on their platform. So they've actually capped this fee at a total amount of £375. This means that once you've invested over £250,000, this actual percentage fee starts to reduce. So if you've got £250,000 invested, you'll be charged 0.15% because your fee will be £375. But let's say you've got £2 million invested, your fee will still be capped at £375, but as a percentage, they'll actually be lower than 0.02% per year. So if we take into consideration the account fee of 0.15% and then add it to the further 3 parts on the management fee, you're looking at a range on Vanguard from about 0.24% all the way up to about 1.54% for the most expensive funds. On the assumption that you've not got $250,000 invested into Vanguard, then your fee should be around about the 0.43% mark for all these costs combined. But are there other costs that you need to be aware of? Well, I think there's a few, so let me go through them. You should all know that Vanguard does not charge performance fees, which they refer to as incidental fees, meaning there's no additional fee depending on how your fund of choice has performed over time. But the only other cost that you need to be aware of, and it could be quite a big one, is Vanguard's quote and deal service fee. On the platform, you might have noticed that you have 2 options when buying your fund of choice. The 2 options are either their quote and deal service or their batch dealing service. Vanguard's batch dealing service saves all the requests for purchases across the whole day for all its customers, and then they take these requests and buy in 2 different slots throughout the day. They don't advertise online when these 2 batches go through, but in my experience, if I put a purchase request through first thing in the morning, then by 10:30 AM UK time, it's probably been completed. And to clarify, this service is completely free. But let's say you are super keen to buy your fund straight away. Well, Vanguard then offer you their quote and deal service, which prioritises your order so it can be placed straight away. But it does come at a cost of £7.50 per transaction. This is a fixed fee, so it shouldn't be that costly unless you buy a very small amount. So if you only buy £100 worth of this service, the fee will be 7.5%. But if you're investing £10,000, then the fee would be lower than 0.01%. I have had this question a lot, so let me be crystal clear. This service is optional. You can buy funds for free, but only as long as you're willing to wait for your orders to be batched together with other people's. In reality, if you place an order, it's normally executed within a few hours, but that's considering that it's within opening hours and not out of trading hours. So that's what Vanguard charges for, but we need to give them some credit on what they don't charge for, like many investment apps do. So in rapid fire, here's a list of things that they don't charge for: moving your money away, switching to another fund, withdrawing your money, closing your account, any sort of fees on your cash balances that you might have on Vanguard, and then also no sort of inactivity fee. Not bad, hey? If you want to know more about the fees and costs of the fund that you've either picked or you might be picking in the future, then I'll attach a PDF in the comment section below so you can see a breakdown of all the costs associated with your given fund. Anyway, that's all for this video. See you in the next one.